Come on. Everybody's doing it. You know you want to. Hello and welcome to the Durham Talents channel. My name is Jesse Durham. For today's episode, we're going to be discussing infinite banking for vacations. Now, there's no question you're going to take vacations. I'm going to take vacations. Here's my question. What if I could show you how to take your vacations and get the money back? You heard me. What if I could show you how to take vacations and get the money back? Is there more provocative of a question than that? Well, the infinite banking concept is the infinite banking concept. And while I've covered many things on the channel and podcasts so far as using infinite banking to pay off debt and get that money back, how to finance vehicles for the rest of your life, all these different things. Let's talk about vacations. Again, you're going to take them. I'm going to take them. And once we really realize that there are only a couple of ways to take vacations, when we really wrap our mind around that and then see how infinite banking, becoming your own banker, is just complete out of the box thinking, it changes your paradigm. That's what Nash said. It's a paradigm shift. It's the most simple thing to become your own banker. It's that simple. It's in the title itself. And yet it's a paradigm shift because those two ways that we know how to go about and the two ways that we've used to take vacation so far are either we've put it on credit, okay, a credit card, we've taken out a home equity line of credit on the house, especially if you're doing Disney. Y'all know what I'm talking about. You're doing it that way, okay? And that just is what it is. You're going to be paying interest for however long on someone else's terms and conditions, beholden to them. That's what it looks like. Or you systematically, from your cash flows and income, set aside money that you don't touch, that may or may not be at certain levels of risk. It's being lazy, to be sure, but again, it's better than bleeding out interest dollars, and you accrue that and then you liquidate it to be able to take your vacation. So in that first situation, you take the vacation, putting yourself in debt, and then the terms, the conditions, the interest dollars that you're paying to someone else's bank, that's what's taking place. And in this other situation of paying cash from my cash is king folks, you are maintaining very lazy dollars, again, perhaps at a certain level of risk depending on where you've put it. You know, if it's under the mattress at home, could the house be burnt down? Is that maybe okay? If you put it here or there, is it being productive for you? Is it earning compound interest? I mean, that'd be a good question that I would ask. Is that money earning for you? And then, of course, we eventually, and suffice it to say that it gets liquidated, right? I mean, like for every vacation that you want to take, you either have to go back into debt. And one good question there is, well, did you pay off the prior debt yet from the last vacation before you take the next one? You know, and the same could be said about cars or anything else, because the vast majority of cars, for example, that are brought to a dealership, they're not paid off. And then the next car is bought, and then that interest just becomes a perpetual profit to that entity that's loaning that money, and that compounds, but in a negative way. Now, let's get to the infinite banking part of this. Everything is financed, and the infinite banking concept is what allows us to create an entity that we own and control, to have and maintain and not abdicate the position of our own banker. So simply amassing capital somewhere where we own and control, and us deciding when we want to go on vacation and how we're going to pay that back and when we're going to pay that back and what that's going to look like, because we are our own banker. Now, I dare say that the human elements are so very relevant, perhaps even more so for this somewhat emotional subject, because there's certainly no one who's ever regretted taking too many vacations. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. Nobody's worried about taking too many vacations. Nobody's worried about making too many memories with the family. So that's why I say it's an emotional consumption, right? Because vacations are consumptions. We're consuming something, okay, and it's a beautiful thing. We're creating memories. We're having good times. We're creating new experiences for ourselves, and no doubt those are some of the highlights in our own family. Those are some of the highlights that we still talk back to today. Our boys have been doing a recent study, and they're 6 and 8. Recent study on California, and my wife and I have talked to them extensively about our trip to see Sequoia and see these massive and incredible, majestic monarch redwoods, because it's that simple of a name. These beautiful, majestic redwood trees. Because we've gone there, and that's been years ago, and we still remember that, and we relish that experience. So that's why it's emotional. But that's also that much more of the reason of why we should consider things like Parkinson's Law. You know, Nash addressed Parkinson's Law in his book, Becoming Your Own Banker, much before he got to policy illustrations and such, because the human element of wanting to take a vacation, for example, whether it's something that we can or should do, and you decide that for yourself. I'm not telling you what to do, but I am promoting the idea that you can become your own banker. You're going to take vacations. I'm going to take vacations. It would be better, is my suggestion, that if you were your own banker, including for your vacations, what if you could take the vacations and get the money back? And coincidentally, if you knew that you could get the money back, wouldn't that possibly mean that in the future you take better vacations, longer vacations, take vacations more frequently? Okay. So being in the position of being your own banker means that we need to reconcile with Parkinson's Law. You earn a certain amount and you tend to spend that amount. That's just the natural tendency. You earn a certain amount and you spend a certain amount, or beyond that amount. Okay, so we all have to confront Parkinson's Law, for example. This thinking of YOLO. You only live once, baby. Charge it, swipe it, let's go. I get that. And I've conventionally financed vacations before in these different ways of using debt and just having it as consumer debt and paying cash for vacations. And I've also leveraged our policies over these past several years for all of the vacations that we've taken. We've taken some pretty fantastic vacations, in my opinion. They've been some of our absolute best memories over these past several years, ones that our boys still remember and that we look forward to making with our daughter as now she gets a little bit older. But Parkinson's has to be addressed because of credit cards, because of this idea of YOLO, because of, I mentioned it earlier, folks getting second mortgages and home equity lines of credit on their homes, which are not in most cases cash flowing, appreciating assets, meaning something that puts money in their pocket. And I'm not saying don't use leverage. If you decidedly, intentionally, purposely want to do that in an educated way, fantastic. Again, I'm promoting the idea that you can become your own banker, that you don't have to be beholden to anyone else, even when it comes to a home equity line of credit, if that's something that you decide to use. But to simply get some net worth liquid in a home equity line of credit or a second mortgage to take the family to Disney, well, that's something that Kiyosaki would address as a liability upon a liability, okay? And whereas he says, let your assets pay for liabilities. Asset being something that puts money in your pocket. And certainly, here's where I can address that thought of, this is the consummate example of how to use an appreciating asset, okay? And that being a properly structured whole life policy with a mutual company that pays dividends. That policy being the appreciating asset that can be leveraged to take the vacation, to pay for the vacation. And then you, as the owner of that policy, see, that's a contract, a unilateral contract between you and the insurance company. You pay whatever amount of premiums that have been predetermined that you would pay to own and operate that policy. You get to leverage contractually guaranteed right. That is your right to leverage that policy via policy loans, tax-free for something, anything, such as taking a vacation. And then for that loan from the insurance company, well, the collateral was the death benefit, so it's a perfectly collateralized appreciating asset because it was the asset itself that provided both the collateral and the liquidity, the access to capital for what it is that you wanted to do. And as the owner of that policy, that means that you're going to be determining when you pay that back, how you pay that back, if you pay that back. And I don't mean to stress that too much. I'm simply pointing out what are your contractual rights as the policy owner. I wholeheartedly believe that we should be practicing the infinite banking concept as honest bankers. Don't steal the peas. If you don't know that reference, read Becoming Your Own Banker by R. Nelson Nash. But you can leverage that policy to take a vacation. And that means that those interest dollars that you otherwise would have paid to someone else, or the interest dollars that you would have lost out on, plus the principal itself, can now be recaptured back into where? That appreciating asset, that whole life policy, where the premiums that you've paid, they're growing compounded, uninterrupted, regardless. And that leveraging of the policy to take a policy loan didn't interrupt that compounding. So the premiums continue to grow uninterrupted, earning compound interest, while you can still access the liquid capital in that policy to go to Alaska. And I mentioned that because, I had to do some thinking. I first read Becoming Your Own Banker in 2015. Our first policy was started by the time it went in force. It was 2016. In 2016, my wife and I and our two boys took a magnificent cruise in Alaska, and we did some extra things. We spent extra days in Seattle, Washington, seeing Mount Rainier. We got to see Mount Rainier. We didn't travel to Mount Rainier. We did stay in the city. We actually had the great benefit of a couple of clear days in Seattle, which is amazing. And of course, we went to the Fresh Market. We went to the Needle. Went up the Needle. So we made a real big deal out of it. We were gone for a couple of weeks. It was fantastic altogether, and that was after starting. So that was the fall. We had started a policy that summer, I guess it was. And then for every year after that, we would be paying premiums into these policies. Because we did, by our second year, I guess, we certainly had two policies, and then we've just grown that system since then. As of this date and time, we have several policies. We have 6 policies now. And in 2017, we took a trip to Michigan with some friends, and then we also took, just us again, just my wife and our two boys again, we took another cruise. We took a New England and Eastern Canadian cruise for several days, and altogether we were gone some weeks. And again, we paid premium dollars into these policies, and a portion of what we had done, because we had these policies properly structured for us according to cash flows and income at that time, and we were systematically, building onto our system of policies to account for our need of finance as a young growing family that was doing business things and wanting to take vacations and whatnot. So there was no way, once we knew enough to become our own bankers, not that we were perfect, we were still making mistakes. I've probably made all the mistakes that are out there, and maybe I still have more to make. But we were making sure that our dollars were going to our privatized banking system. And then for sure, we were making sure that it was our dollars that were going towards our vacations from that privatized banking system, so that we were in control of this entire operation. And for us, that looked, like a lot of fun in 2018, we did a trip to New Orleans. Got to see all the historic sites. Of course, stayed in a fantastic hotel. Got to watch the feeding of the alligators, and we ate at what is it? It was like one of the top 6 culinary schools in the world. We had a verified Cajun chef. Amazing experience. Boys, we all loved it. And in 2019, we did a trip in Vermont where we had maple syrup taste testings at a local farm, and we went and saw the Von Trapp estate. My brother went on that trip with us. My brother and I still talk. Who's a client? My brother, who's a client. Appreciate you, Mark. We still talk about that trip and the impact that had on us. And I'm mentioning this because, again, I'm going to take vacations. You're going to take vacations. Things changed for us when we started using our cash flow and our income to begin this process of becoming our own banker. And it affected many other things. From the very start, we used policies for things like paying off student loan debt. We had some student loan debt to pay off. We had some credit cards to pay off. So we had other goals. But again, as we built this process over the years, we still wanted to take vacation for at least once or twice a year, and lots of times more. But regardless of what that looks like for you or for me, either way, we're going to go on vacation is what I'm saying. You're going to go on vacation. And I'm here to promote the idea that if you own and operate a policy where your dollars go into and they fund that policy, they grow that policy, they pay premiums in that policy that you own and control, and that you're the one that is in the position of banker that can leverage that policy for the things that you are going to do anyway. See, just by adding that one step, you're not changing your cash flows. You're not working any harder. You're not taking any kind of additional risk. But you're adding that one step of owning a policy like I've described and using that for your need of finance. And that's what completely changes it. And again, it's like if you could take a vacation and get the money back, couldn't they in the future be better vacations, longer vacations, more frequent? And again, let me get to this one particular point when talking about vacations and owning policies and such, because paying premiums, what I said from the very start was that with our first policy, my wife and I started paying what was for us a significant amount of our income for our very first policy. And significant, but don't worry about what the number is. Decimals move left and right. And everyone's situation is very different. And that's how I approach this business as well. It's not a cookie cutter approach. But we were paying significant premiums. Now, something that I could point out that I think we could all acknowledge at this day and time, or at least at the time of this recording, early 2022, gas prices are a hot topic subject in current conversation. Well, what I'm meaning to say here is that perhaps what it costs to go on vacation this year may be different than last year. Maybe it'll be different in the future. So let me ask a couple of questions to help you consider a particular and very important aspect of becoming your own banker, which is don't be afraid to capitalize. Let me ask you, is it possible that vacations or anything else may cost more in the future? Okay? Is it possible that in your future you would want to take longer, better, more frequent vacations? Okay, so then do you want to be talking about little numbers or big numbers? And then subsequently, how soon do you want to start? So if you're vetting this idea for the first time, do you want to take vacations this year or in the future? Okay, awesome. What if you could get that money back? Awesome. Would you possibly consider the idea that vacations may cost more in the future, so you should capitalize more now? Awesome. And again, of course, would you like to take more in the future, and mightn't your family grow? I mean, all these different situations are different, of course. But ultimately, I'm hoping that this conversation has been very helpful for those that are ready to enjoy some sunshine and whatever vacation looks like for you, and get the money back. And get that money back and keep that in your family. And I'm having a particular recollection right now of a client who she and hopefully we can get her on the podcast sometime real soon. She's always on the go. She prioritizes travel both for leisure and for work, and I'm always seeing her going to amazing places, and she offers a great service to clients. And it's a lot of fun for me to have had conversations before in constructing policies, knowing some ideas, some ideas of what she wants to be able to use them for. Because, well, Jesse, I want to do this trip this year, and for sure I want to be able to plan this for this special event with so and so, next year or later this year, and just all these different things from the very first start. And of course, I maintain contact, with our clients. We like to talk regularly, and regularly may mean something different for each individual client. I'm not here for anyone to be dependent upon me, but I am certainly here to speed up anyone and everyone's learning curve and to provide just the absolute best service that I can to propel people on their way to become their own banker. But for sure, from the very first policy for this particular client, I knew, she was telling me so, that travel was going to be a leisure travel. Was going to be a priority and a direct consideration for the kind of capital that was going to be used to fund policies. So again, if you can do this with vacations, and you can, could you do it with college for the kids? Could you do it with real estate investments? Could you do it with X, Y, Z? Yes, it's the infinite banking concept. And if you'd like to have a conversation on how to implement the infinite banking concept for your vacations or anything else, then you can reach us at 828-817-4223, or you can email durhamtalents@gmail.com. This has been a great pleasure for me. I look forward to our next conversation, whether it's here or at the beach. Have a great day. Take care. Bermuda, Bahamas, come on, pretty mama. Whoa, YOLO, baby. I need some sunglasses. Put some sunglasses on. All right.